In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the parking brake shoes on this Dodge Ram 1500. These are located behind your rear brakes. Let's get started. With the truck safely raised and supported, use a 22mm socket, remove the lug nuts, and then remove the wheel. From the backside of the caliper, you can see the two 21mm headed bolts that hold the caliper and bracket assembly with the pads onto the rear axle. Let's remove both of these and set the caliper aside. I'll leave this one in a couple threads to hold everything while I remove the lower. Take this out, take this out, slide the caliper off of the rotor, and now you don't want to let it hang by the brake hose, so I'll hang it with a hook or a bungee cord, or you could place it on top of the rear axle. Now remove your rotor. If yours is stuck on here, you can tap with a hammer right between the lug studs. That should break it free off of the axle hub surface. However, make sure that the parking brake shoes are not what's making it stuck on here, because if that's the case, either your parking brake is applied, the cable could be seized, or the shoes might be adjusted too far out. Now with the rotor off, we can see our brake shoes and all of the hardware. Each brake shoe will be secured on each side with one of these little clips. To get these out, you have a few options. I'm just going to punch them out downward with a pry bar. That unlocks the shoe. This pin can push through now. And do the same to the forward-facing shoe. With both of those undone, you should be able to pry these apart. Doing this allowed us to pull them slightly upwards, and in doing so, we've exposed our adjuster, which happened to have fallen off. Sometimes they get stuck up here. This one's actually in great shape, not even seized. A lot of times they do seize. So we'll set this one aside. I'll show you how to clean and lubricate that. And then we have this top spring, which you can either take off by hand or with some pliers. Just unhook it from the shoe. There we go. Inspect all this hardware that comes out. This one's in okay shape, although I do have new hardware to reinstall. You can reuse these. If they look like they're stretched, bent, or extremely rusted out, definitely replace them. Now you can take your shoes, spread them apart. One of the lower springs just fell out, that's all right. And there they are with the other lower spring attached here. This one's definitely in very poor condition. These are our lower springs. It's important to note that they have a longer end and a shorter end. The longer end will face towards the rear of the truck, especially here on the driver's side. So you want to pay attention how they come off so that you can reinstall them the correct way. Down at the bottom here, you have your parking brake lever. Now this is supposed to pivot just like that, as well as obviously back and forth, but you want it to be freely moving. Mine, surprisingly, is moving. Now, if yours was stuck, you would take a hammer it this way, hammer it that way, spray some rust penetrant on it, and it should break free, and eventually we'll do this. Might take a little bit of time, but you want to achieve this so that when you do apply the parking brake, it can actually apply evenly to both shoes. My backing shield is new. However, if yours was rusted and old, you'd want to clean off these areas where the shoes touch with a wire brush or a file, whatever you can do to get it nice and flat. And then we'll coat it with a very thin layer of either brake grease or silicone paste that is rated for brakes. That's what I'll be using. This will ensure smooth operation of the shoes and will avoid any sort of noises such as squeaks or grinding noises as you apply the parking brake. Apply some on the bottom where the shoes sit. Now we need to attach the shoes together at the bottom with those two springs that go on the front and on the back of them. So the bottom is going to be the side with the double cutout. The top is going to be the side with a single wide cutout. Take one of your springs that goes on the bottom, and remember it has the longer end and the shorter end. The shorter end will go on the forward-facing shoe for my application because I'm working on the driver's side. The longer end towards the back of the truck. We'll hook this on just like this, just one of them, the one that goes on the rear. We'll slide these shoes into position. Like that. That spring will somewhat hold them in place. Now it's difficult to see here, but what you want is for the shoes to sit right down in this support at the bottom. The tabs that stick out need to go in here, And then of course it needs to line up with that lever. Also at this point, we're gonna have to install the outer spring. We'll hook it on to the shorter end first, and with a pry bar or a screwdriver, I'm going to guide it onto the other side. To get this hooked in, I'll take a pick and just try to push it into its groove. Now let's press it. Perfect. So the bottom is installed. Now it's time to assemble things at the top. So we'll spread these shoes apart. And the first thing I want to put in here is the adjuster. The adjuster comes apart just like this. I have a new one, but on the original one, it'll be the same. I'm going to back this star wheel off, and that's so I can apply some grease and then use this to work it into the threads and even it out. I don't want too much on here, but I do want it to be greased up and smoothly, freely spinning for a long time. So now we'll just thread this in, put a little bit of extra grease on here, and reinstall it into the other part. What I also like to do is put a little bit of grease where it contacts the shoes to prevent it from getting stuck in the future. I remember that my adjuster had the star wheel facing towards the front of the truck, so that's how I'll put it back on. Spread these shoes apart, and line it up, slide it in. And one more thing up top is going to be this spring. The cutouts for it are right above where the adjuster mounts. Kind of hard to see, but if you reach in there, you should be able to get it hooked on. To get this in, I'm going to use the same pick method that I used on the bottom. I have this partially hooked in. I just need to tap it to finish locking it in place. And there it goes. Perfect. So now all we have left to do is to attach the shoes to the backing shield with the pins and the little hooks. So take your pin and slide it in through the back side, line it up with the hole on the shoe, slide your clip in. Once it's on there, use a flathead screwdriver or a small pry bar to press it. It's got a little cutout that you can press on, and then you can either spin the pin or spin the tab, the clip, and that'll lock it in. There we go. That's locked in. Just spin it so it's parallel with the shoe. Center these up. And do the same to the forward-facing shoe. My rotor mounting surface on the axle looks great. I know it's a little bit dirty, but it's just stained from a previous cleanup. That's fine. I'm going to add some anti-seize to the surface. That way the rotor doesn't corrode here in the future. If yours needed to be sanded down, you would use a soft sanding disc or a wire brush or a wire wheel on a drill and clean this up. You don't want any rust building up here, and you don't want the rotor not sitting flat. Otherwise it'll cause braking issues. If your rotor has corrosion on the backside, sand that down as well, make it nice and flat, and then we'll install it. Perfect. At this point, you can also check the adjustment of your parking brake. If needed, you can take this back off and then use the star wheel to expand or contract the shoes. What you're looking for is to just barely hear them touch at times. You don't want any drag on this. These are not drum brakes, of course, so you don't want them to be touching at all times. Optionally, once the wheel is on, if you want to test things with the parking brake on and the vehicle on the ground, you can go from the backside, remove that small rubber plug at the top, stick a flathead screwdriver in, pull up or down on it, and that will adjust your parking brake shoes. Bring your caliper back over, slide it over the rotor and onto the axle. Have at least one of the bolts ready to start on so you can let go and then start the other. We'll bottom these out and then torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Let's reinstall the wheel. Push it on all the way, install all 5 lug nuts, and then we'll bottom them out in a cross pattern. Now you want to torque the wheel in a cross pattern also to 130 foot-pounds. Double check them all. And there you have it. Job is done. We'll do the same to the other side.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.